Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 74 of Cute Little Love Letters, and this one is titled Denki and Dad. That's true, your mum said, but before we close this topic, lest we speak too freely, the butterflies are around, and they will come to your aid if needed, she said with a knowing smile. You nodded. I'm looking forward to seeing them again, you said with a hopeful look on your face. Your mum shifted the conversation then, and you told her stories from the getaway weekend, leaving out the kissing of course, but telling her that life was really good. Mum, I remember when you said that there might come a time where I was enjoying being in the dorms, and I didn't think I'd ever get to that point, but I'm there now. I love my friends, I love Denki, and I love school. It's really good, he said with a smile. I'm glad, my little Fae, your dad said from across the table after having a sip of his drink. You've grown so much since starting there. She really has, your mum said with a smile. Your aura is so bright and stable now. You know what? I can feel it, you said. Let me serve dinner and then we can continue to talk, your mum said as she got up. Surely you're hungry after releasing so much negative tension. Yes, I am, you said with a smile. I need to recharge on food. Later that night, after dinner, your dad dropped you back to the dorms with the neighbour's van. He didn't trust you walking alone at night, especially if there could be Foxfiri around. Can never be too careful, he said as he drove you along. I could never forgive myself if anything were to happen to you. Thanks, Dad, you said with a pat to his arm. While you were headed back to the dorms, Denki texted you to make sure you were okay. He had missed you that afternoon and was wanting to maybe see you for a tiny bit before you all had to be in your rooms for the night. Hey baby, he messaged. Are you safe? I'm just checking in on you. It's getting a little late. You felt your phone vibrate in your pocket in the van and pulled it out to have a look at who had messaged you. Oh, Dad, it's Denki. He's asking how I am. I'll just tell him you're bringing me back now. Yes, let him know. And I'd also like to extend my congratulations to him as well, if he wants to come out and meet you at the van, your dad said brightly. You smiled. Okay, I'll tell him, you said, sending Denki back a message. Denki was only too happy to meet you at the gates, and he was already standing there eagerly as your dad pulled the van up and you jumped out to give your man a hug. Your dad hopped out as well and walked around to the passenger side of the van to greet your boyfriend. Denki, your dad said, walking over and holding his fist out to the blonde. Oh, hey, Mr. Lin, sir, Denki replied, holding his fist up and bumping your dad back and giving your dad a big smile. I hear congratulations is in order, your dad said brightly. Allow me to welcome you into the family. Oh, thank you, Denki replied brightly. It's an awesome family to be in too. I'm glad you think so, your dad said happily. Please accept the invitation from my wife and I to come over for dinner tomorrow night, you and my yin. I thought he was just going to invite Denki for a second there, you thought with an internal chuckle. Oh, that'd be dope, sir. Yes, please, I'm down, Denki said brightly. Down? Your dad asked, tilting his head slightly. He's up for coming over, you translated quickly. Oh, your dad replied. Well, that's mega dope then, he said proudly, and Denki chuckled and held his fist out again. Solid, he said as your dad bumped his fist. I'm solid, your dad said proudly to you, and you had to stifle a full-on laugh. Yes, you replied, trying to keep your chuckling in check. Anyway, your dad said proudly, I know it's getting late, so I don't want you to be caught lacking, so a dope night to you two and keep chill, he said. Hey, my man, Denki laughed, bumping your dad again, who was only too happy to return it, stoked that he seemed to be able to communicate with this young teen. Good night, Dad, you said with a chuckle and a hug to him. Sleep well. And you too, my sweet, he said, hugging you back. Oh, and Denki, I'm all over the gram now. Hit me up if you need anything, your dad said. Sick, Denki replied, another fist bump occurring between the two males. Will do, boss. I'm boss now, your dad stated proudly to you. We need to go before you learn any more slang, Dad, you giggled. Good night. Night, he said with a grin, as he turned and went back to get in the van. You and Denki waved him off before heading back into the dorms and getting into the elevator. Needless to say, both you and Denki were keen for a kiss, once alone, and quickly made that a reality. Then Denki walked you to your dorm room door, and you said a quick good night before going to bed. The next afternoon, you and Denki left the school grounds together to head to your place for dinner. Your first dinner together at your house after making things official. So then Karishma said, "If I lay really still, he'll think I'm a rock," Denki said, retelling a story from the day that happened during a class activity. And then, he chuckled, and then Kiri lay down, and Bakugo walked around the corner and actually tripped over him. Denki had started laughing really hard by now, and you giggled along, finding his amusement more amusing than the story itself. "It was the funniest thing I've ever seen," Denki said, still half laughing. Oh, too good," he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "That does sound very funny," you said. "Our class doesn't act up much. There's not a lot of funny things, but Tetsu sometimes thinks strength is the only way to solve problems, and one time a fly landed on Monoma's pants in the middle," you said, pointing to your crotch. "And Tetsu punched him there to try and kill the fly." You giggled when you remembered the memory. "Monoma screamed so loud I thought his soul was going to leave his body," you said with an apologetic chuckle. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but it was quite funny." "That is pretty funny," Denki laughed. "I can see that happening too." You smiled and squeezed his hand. "I like being with you," you said happily. "You're just so easy to talk to." "And so are you, my baby girl," he replied, leaning his head down to kiss you on the temple. You smiled and leaned into him while you walked. You had the best boyfriend. You reached your house pretty quickly after that and called out as you entered. "Hi, Mum. I'm home and Denki's here too," you called. "Hi, Mrs. Yin's mum, ma'am," Denki called as he took his shoes off. "Welcome home, both of you, and congratulations," your mum said, walking down the hall to give both of you a greeting hug. You hugged her and then stepped back so that Denki could have a hug as well. Last night had been a bit of a whirlwind and you hadn't remembered hugging your mum, so this was the first time that you hugged her since you and Denki had become official. Her hugs were still very nice, that was for sure, but they didn't recharge you like they used to. Denki's hugs were now more appealing than hers, and you pondered that a bit as your mum offered for you to both head into the house. You took his hand in yours and headed into the house, but you didn't get very far before your dad appeared and held his fist out to Denki. "Hey, boss," Denki greeted brightly to your dad. Worker," your dad gingerly replied back to him. "No, Dad," you said with a chuckle. "You can call him boss back or something else, but not worker." The embarrassment. Son?" your dad said, and Denki's eyes flew open. You'd call me son? You'd actually call me son?" he asked, getting a little emotional about it. "Oh, well, yes, I've never had a son before, but I would have liked to have had one," your dad said. "Would you let me call you son?" "That'd be super dope. Do I call you Dad?" Denki asked nervously. Totally cool if not. I get it." Call me Dad," your dad said quickly, and your eyes flew open with surprise. "You two move quickly," you said with surprise. "We're bros," Denki replied. "Is that a bad thing?" your dad said sadly. "I'm finally cool now, right, son?" "Yeah, Dad," Denki replied to him, and they fist bumped again with smirks on their faces. "Mom," you called, "I think you need to come here. The boys are being weird." And the last part of the story is going to be about Denki and Dad just being total bros. Stay tuned for chapter 75 coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.